So this is a version 15 of Wizardbook Web Builder, and as part of the options or new features available in it, there's a special tab for SEO. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So alright, click on an empty space, go to page properties, and then as you can see, we have our SEO tab in there. So the SEO tab usually used to be under miscellaneous, where there's some kind of additional information at the bottom in here. So let's just come back to our SEO. So at the SEO, this is where you provide information about robots, as well as conical URL, as well as you put in some kind of language text in there. So let's take a look at it from the beginning or at the top. So you have the robot text. So the robot text is where you indicate or specify that do you want this particular page to be followed. So the first option is index follow. So it means you should index this page and then follow it. That is, you are telling the bot or robot that they should index this page as well as follow it. The second one says index no follow, means you should index this page, it shouldn't be followed. And then the third one is no index follow, and then the final one, no index no follow. Now these options available in here are going to be used based on what you have on your website. So you probably would want to have maybe index follow for your homepage, because your homepage is the first page which is landed on once someone visits your website. And maybe index and then no follow. The reason is because you have different content coming onto that page as time goes on, or you keep updating information on that particular page as time goes on. So even though you want to have the page indexed alright, you don't want bots to be following the page as time goes on, because you are changing information. And as you keep changing information, sometimes the page may sound as inconsistent, or what search engines are going to present isn't going to be the same thing because of the duration you might probably specify for them to come back and then revisit your site, which we'll take a look at in a bit. So index follow is if you want your page to be indexed as well as followed, and then index to no follow is if you have your pages going under constant change. Then it is good for you to select index but no follow, and then you have no index and then follow. So in case you don't want to have that particular page that maybe show up as a page on its own on search engine, but you probably want the information or content on it to be followed on that by the bot, you can go ahead and then select that particular option, and then finally have no index no follow. So in case you don't want your page to be indexed as well as the content to be followed, then you can go ahead to select that. So let me just select this, and then we have revisit after. So after the first time the bot has visited your page or your site, let's say a page, to take a look at whatever it's on, it's called whatever it has to be called depending on the settings you have at the first option, then you get to specify how long should it take for it to come back to do that again. So you specify the duration you want the bot to come back to crawl your site again. So there's 1 day, there's 7 days, 31 days, 180 days, and 365 days. So this is basically 1 day, a week, a month's time, or that is half a year, and then finally you have an entire year. So depending on the options you want, you go ahead to specify that, and then you have the conical URL. So let's just go ahead and then check this up a bit and see what exactly it does. So let me just so it says what the conical element, often called the conical link, is an HTML element that helps webmasters prevent duplicate content issues. So it does this by specifying a URL that is a preferred version of a web page, the original source even. So let me just open this up and read it more, so you get to understand what exactly the conical URL over there is going to do. So it says okay, so that preferred version of the original source even. So using it improves a site search. So let's just take a look at this once more. The relative conical element, often called the conical link, is an HTML element that helps webmasters prevent duplicate content issues. So that's a keyword in here. It does this by specifying the conical URL, the preferred version of a web page, and then the original source. So even original source even. Using it improves search engine optimization. So let's continue reading further. It says the idea is simple. if you have several similar versions of the same content, you pick one canonical version and point the search engines at it. I think this is self-explanatory based on what I've read over here. Basically, if you have similar content and then you want to you don't want to have both of them showing at in search results, then you put the canonical URL over there to point to the one that you wanted to show, to avoid duplicate on your website. So that's where the canonical URL over here. Then finally, annotations for language. Now this option wasn't available, the same as canonical URL wasn't available in previous versions of WYSIWYG Web Builder, but it's good to have them here because at this section you get to specify the language for your website, which is very important for your website. And then in case you have different languages version of your website, you get to specify that here. So let's say this is US, and then that's the default I have in here. So maybe I specify https @ishmael.com / maybe en. That's probably English. I copy that and then click on OK. So that's for the first one. Then I have the next one. So maybe French, FR. So that's it for French as well. So providing these languages, that is if you have different languages version of your website, helps people, redirected to those specific languages and makes it easier for them to be able to understand or read whatever information you have on your website. And it also aids in search engine optimization. So if there are search results being shown in, let's say, French, your site stands a chance of standing out or being a part of the search result because you have a French version of your website. So these are the details or the options or information available under the SEO tab in WYSIWYG Web Builder. There's one more thing I'd wanted to talk about earlier on, which I skipped, which happens to be under the navigation in here. So where you have do not follow this link. So this is the same option which is available at that is no follow when you come to the SEO aspect, where you don't want this particular link to be followed by bots. So you just check this option in here, do not follow, and then once you have that selected, whatever bot, whatever search engine bot is on your site will never follow this particular link. So this also helps if this particular link isn't going to be as it is, it's going to change as time goes on, then you probably would want to be working with this particular link in here.